So this, Black Sabbath fans, you'll remember, was the album that I bought. And I had to wait for a long time before I could buy the previous albums and the album that came after this, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And fortunately for me, in 1976, this was released in the US. In 1975 December, it was released in the UK. But I managed to get hold of it in 1977. And this contains the best of all the five albums that had come before. So without having to spend for four more albums, I got it in just one album. And that is something that I treasure and cherish even till today.
Yeah, in fact, this is the album which Dad would always talk to me about, which finally managed to get. And I mean, obviously, it's got all the best numbers like Black Sabbath, Paranoid, the number one, arguably, but we think the most well known Sabbath song ever. My personal favorite, Children of the Grave, is on this one. And I think, in terms of understanding how dynamic each of the musicians are, I mean, you're looking at things like where you take, for instance, the way each of them is playing. Ozzy's singing this, power ballad called Changes, which is dynamic, and it's got Tony Iommi playing piano on it. And then you listen to a song like NIB, which I think is the ultimate bass guitar song ever. Okay, a lot of guys might argue about that, but Geezer Butler remains my favorite bassist. And if you want to hear how phenomenal he is, you just got to check that song out. And if you look at other songs, which are on here, like, for instance, like Fairies Wear Boots, Tomorrow's Dream, which Dad loves a lot, and The Wizard, and so on, with that special harmonica kind of sound. This is really a great starting place for any Sabbath fan. Now, yes, a lot of guys might say that this is all the Ozzy era of the band, but if you look at Sabbath as a whole, I mean, with all respect, because a lot of albums that Dio, in fact, did with like Sabbath were really good, and you should check them out. My favorite, of course, from that being Heaven and Hell, which was the first album which came out once Ozzy had left and Dio had become the new singer of Sabbath. But if you listen to this, and this is really what a bulk of the fans really focus on, this is a great place to actually start. And as Dad said, Volume 4, that's really the album which, for both of us is a personal favorite. At least it's my favorite Black Sabbath album of all time. And we think that to really understand how dynamic Sabbath was, because a lot of guys who may not necessarily be into hard rock, heavy metal, may sometimes wonder, like, is Black Sabbath like a doom band or like a death band or something like that? But nothing wrong with that. They're fans of each kind of, heavy music. But they should check this out because there's so much of diversity on there. I mean, if you look at even things like Laguna Sunrise, it's a beautiful instrumental which is, epic. You can almost feel like, this forest scene, the sun is rising, the birds are singing. It's this very tranquil, very majestic kind of feeling that the song evokes from you within sight. And the way the guitars are going off and so on. So it's something which has got a lot for everyone, and I think it's the most diverse thing, obviously being the greatest hits, but a great place to start, and then from there to begin, check out the rest of the discography which is there. So if you're new to Sabbath, and if you're really trying to figure out where to begin, yeah, we sold our soul for rock and roll. Yeah, see, this is the thing. We sold our soul for rock and roll, and the next set of albums you can listen to is Volume 4, followed by Paranoid, followed by Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Master of Reality, Black Sabbath, the album, and there's also Sabotage. Sabotage sometimes gets a little missed out because the first five albums were so phenomenal, but it's the sixth album, do check that out, really good stuff, some very interesting riffing by Tony Iommi, especially on that album, with some interesting solo work and so on. And this encompasses, what you could really say is why Black Sabbath is an immortal band, why they stand out so much. So without further ado, we just want to give you a quick look as to where you could start from, what this music is about, what we think are the standout tracks for us. We'd love to know what each of you guys think. So like we said, just leave us a comment below, let us know what you think. Maybe if some of you guys have dads, like my dad, who introduced you to Sabbath, I'd love to know your story as well. And what we're going to get into next in the final part of this series, which we're calling Black Sabbath, All in the Family, is about where both of us are going to be talking about each of the band members, like Ozzy, Tony, Geezer, and Bill. So do stay tuned for that, and we'll see you over there, right? So rock on, guys.
I just want to say something before we sign off on this one. There are two things you got to remember, and that is Black Sabbath, the band, and the band per se had a lot of changes in the lineup, whether it was Ozzy exiting or Dio coming on board, and I'm sure they all did a phenomenal job. But for the people who were first leaned on Black Sabbath, the first foursome that was there. They are not just Black Sabbath, the band. They were Black Sabbath, the idea, that concept. Okay, that light on top of the lighthouse that shone the way for everybody to come. The rest of it, the band played on. They created some great music, no doubts about it. But that was the band, that was the music. But the four of them together and the early days and the numbers which they came up with, that was the idea. That was a concept. That was giving birth, that was spawning a genre of music. So you gotta forgive me if I'm one of these old school guys who believe that, a band is more than just the four members who make up that band. It's the chemistry between those guys, and those guys are the kind of music that they come up with. And these four who started it off and the kind of music that they came up with, to me, will always be quintessentially the core Black Sabbath. Some of you guys may not like what I have to say, but if you ask an old die-hard fan of Black Sabbath like me, somebody who's in my same age group, probably might share his views. And anyway, that's just what I want to say. So, happy listening.
Yeah, no, go on, guys.